All right, everybody. Again, my name is Eric Murphy. I'm the co-curator of Recovery ACT Arts, Culture, and Technology. And we have one of our amazing Bay Area artists in the exhibition here by the name of Malik Seneferu, a brother that I had the honor of working with for nearly 20 years now. And I'm excited to have him in the show. He's one of the first ones we reached out to for this exhibition. And yeah, welcome, brother Malik. How you doing today, man?
I'm all right, man. I'm in my element. Another day, another
All
opportunity.
right, I like that. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, man, yeah. So, just go jump right into it, man. We gotta let most of the people know you, but for those that don't know you, kind of tell them a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got into your art practice.
Okay. Well, once I'd like to thank uh, Eric Murphy. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity of being a part of the show, and of course, a big thanks and a big uh, pour of libations and thanks to Joyce Gordon and what she's done for the art, especially the circuitry of the circuit, the I would say the vibration of art in the Bay Area. It was
Hmm.
great to have her presence, the way that she's been there consistently for so many years, struggling, but not only just putting forth great exhibitions, but really having to navigate the changes in the city. And she's really done that well. So I just want to say that. Um, my name is Malik Seneferu. I was born and raised in San Francisco, California, and to a single parent household in the sense that I never had the opportunity to really meet my father, but had some amazing experiences in the process of growing up. One of those major experiences was my relationship to art. And so my relationship to that is what really kind of created a sense of reputation in the places that I lived, wherever my mother lived. That's where I had the reputation of being an artist since my earliest ages. I also enjoyed working with the community as I got older. And as I worked with the community, I also engaged them with my art practice, which is sort of what I still do to this day. I began doing art in, I actually began, I had early affinity. I always loved looking at beautiful things and looking at art in particular to look at. And I might go outside and see some configuration and want to come back in and draw it. Due to the fact that my father that had not seen, I always, my first really real connection to art was really drawing pictures of my father and trying to keep a close um, contact, you know, with that relationship with my father. That was my earliest known relationship with my father, was drawing pictures of him and where he might be going. So I had this sort of narrative scene where he would be walking places and doing things. And so I had an early start in wanting to do cartoons and wanting to do things like comic books. That's how I really got started as a kid.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so as I began kind of getting a little older and became a teenager, I came in touch with some friends of my stepfather, who was a Vietnam veteran, and they would come by and give me things like little art tools because they knew that I often did art, and I got my hands on some London watercolors and began uh, as we moved to. I was about 13 years old when we moved back to the place I was born, which was in Hunters Point. So I was around 13 years old, and I'm sitting in this apartment with this beautiful view of the Bay Area. And, you know, waking up every morning, the only thing we had, because we were the poorest family in the neighborhood, and most of the neighborhoods we lived in, we were the poor, pretty much among the poorest families in the neighborhood. So what I would often do is use my art as a way of an escape. I would also use my art as a way of finding something to do when there was nothing to do. So I always try to make fun of that. And if I didn't have art materials when I was outside, I would find things and try to, you know, make something out of them and give them to my mother. That was kind of my early relationship with creating art. And I didn't know, you know, I just wanted to make something and try to keep my imagination going. So what I really enjoy doing is creating images, and rather than replicating images. So that's always been my sort of move. I'm really good at replication, but because, you know, in growing up, they say, well, you know, if you're an artist, can you do a portrait? You know, can you do this? My earliest portraits, I did some portraits for my mother's family. I was probably about 13 or 14 years old then, and doing portraits of people. You know, people would have their first baby and they would say, I want you to do a portrait of my baby. And I would do those portraits of them, you know, and, you know, creating for my people in the hood is like, you know, trying to get up on stage at the Apollo, you know, you gotta correct, you know.
I know. The pressure
I
is
loved
oh.
it because it really pushed my skill, you know, because they would say, you're an artist, you don't know how to draw, you know, that type of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, hood would keep it real with you.
Yeah, and I loved it. I loved it because it built me up, you know, it built me up, and it gave me the thick skin I needed to get into a thing such as the art, the art world, you know,
Mm-hmm.
which is really a difficult scene for myself as being a young black male growing up in San Francisco. You know, I will often flock to a lot of the galleries and stuff like that, wherever I can get in for free because I didn't have any money. So I would go to the galleries because I knew I could walk in those places totally free. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, walking there with my little drawing pad and try to, you know, check out the galleries and stuff like that. And my concern was always like, man, I want to be in one of these places. I want to show my artwork, that kind of thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
really learned that, you know, there was really no gallery sort of representing my voice, and that's why I wasn't really able to get in any really have any gallery really represent me in the sense, because they're really representing a particular voice that that artist is pushing that helps to push the propaganda of that particular gallery. So,
Mm-hmm.
I learned that I had to really make, if I wanted to do what I love to do, I had to make a lane for myself, and that kind of did that in Bayview Hunters Point. I mean, now Bayview Hunters Point is known as the African American Arts and Cultural District, you know.
Yeah, buddy.
And you can walk down Third Street now and see red, black, and green all over the poles. You know, I do believe I'm one of the major reasons for it, because throughout the '80s there was no concern for the arts
Mm-hmm.
in terms of. And I'm not saying people weren't into art. It's just that wasn't the focus. You know, the focus back then was hip hop, you know. So I was, you know, by the everyday person that you do, you know. So I was a b-boy, you know. I used to beatbox, and I was known as beatbox, as a beatboxer and a rapper and a graffiti artist and a break dancer and all of that stuff. So I did all of that. And that's one thing that kind of advanced my view for art, because as a graffiti artist, you know, you really had to know how to do what was called a throw up. You had to know how to, you know, really freestyle, like what the poets would see it as. You know, you had to know how to really come off the top of the head with something instantly right there, so that you sort of engage the audience, you know. And so that was something I kind of grew up having to do growing up in the neighborhood, you know. But I was a bit different in my neighborhood. My neighborhood at the time wasn't really into rapping per se. So I was pretty much among the only few guys that was really rapping when I was doing it in the early '80s and throughout the maybe all the way up to the early '90s. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
with that being said, that influenced my art as well. And a lot of the work that I create is really based upon whatever's on my mind at the time, and not really, spending so much time trying to come up with an idea that's going to go on the canvas, because I often kind of look at it as I grew up watching a lot of TV as a little kid, because that's all I really had. When we did have a TV, I was just astonished that we had something like that in the house,
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up on things like, Good Times, and Fat Albert and the kid
Oh, yeah.
and Looney Tunes, all of those Saturday cartoons and stuff like that. When I didn't have much to do, I would look a lot at those things and try to figure out how I can either reproduce what I see so that people know that I'm still doing my thing. Because if I'm drawing something that they didn't know, they're like, well, I don't know what that is. Can you draw Bugs Bunny? Can you draw, Mickey Mouse? Can you draw, that's how the neighborhood would throw it at you. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
I would always make sure I can draw those things. But I'll never forget, I was in second grade and I went to Golden Gate Elementary. I was living in Fillmore at the time. This is prior to moving to Hunters Point. And I went to Golden Gate and met my first friend, who happened to be Vietnamese. One of my first friends, he was and we were friends in the sense that we, both shared our art together. The thing that reason why I bring him up is because I didn't know that he was he was already classically trained at like in the second grade, you
Oh,
know,
wow.
at creating art. So when I saw him, my jaw would drop every time, because he would be creating these pieces like of images, not, he would be creating like Superman and Spider-Man, but it would look just like how you would see it in a coloring book, or how
Mm-hmm.
you would see it in all these different frames of references. So the teacher would have him up drawing things, and I was like, man, I have to do that. And then he did this one drawing of these cowboys, this cowboy scene, and it was just like you could easily see it in the drawing book. So I would take some of his drawings and take it back home and try to get my skill up to that level. So that was just sort of what had always been in my mind as I was growing up.
Gotcha.
And all of a sudden, I'm in Hunters Point, and I'm doing this work, and I began creating this series of work to speed things forward. I created this series of work. My first series of work is called The Raw, and The Raw was these large canvas pieces, that I would paint, which were like 6 feet by 4.5 feet or 3 feet, which would be about the neighborhood scenes and stuff like
Oh,
that.
wow.
Yeah, so and that series called the Raw series is how I was able to kind of step out as an artist. Although I got this reputation that my pieces are too big and they may be too expensive, so I had to climb out of that too.
I love him though. I want to and thank you for that to kind of give us the evolution of Malik Seneferu's work. You have some amazing pieces in the show, and from what you mentioned, these are the first of these sculpture pieces that you've shown publicly. Can you tell us about the mobile shrines?
Yeah, the mobile shrines, it goes back to the story I was talking about when I would be walking down the street and I would find things and put them together and try to create things out of them and give them to my mother. That is exactly, later I would find out that that was assemblage, that style of work was assemblage. And I gravitated to it so hard because I realized there was a whole world of people doing this type of stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so I began creating a lot of this stuff based upon my understanding of African sculptures and African drawings and paint and well, more so African sculptures and edifices that you would find throughout Africa. When I had the opportunity to be in Africa, I went to Haiti, and I found them making things or found objects there. I went to Africa and found so many amazing things that they just made out of the sheer material that they would find there in the ground. That when I came back, I assured myself that I was going to get back to that format. And so I created the mobile shrine, and the mobile shrine were really doors to the soul. So when you look at these, there's always going to be a knob on it. There's always going to be some sort of feeling of you're really facing a door, right? And so this is like a door to the other side of Black consciousness, which I've often kind of see myself as a hobby, as a hobby history researcher in a sense, using this as an opportunity to kind of express myself and express what African things would look like from the eyes of African people of American descent.
Oh, wow, wow. And can you tell us about this one that we're looking at here, Ikambaki?
Yes. So Ikambaki is actually a Hausa term for Black power. So I always try to take Africa and I always try to bring it to the Black experience here in America, which has been hugely fused. Why even make art, you know? And so this one, you notice in the center of it, there's this sort of teal blue image that, sort of symbol that is in the center, which is actually a bird in flight. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I have a series of textile designs that I created with this bird and a series of other design shapes of birds. My idea was to sort of create my own shape. And so this is really what in birds I enjoyed as a kid, watching birds and searching the sky, that kind of thing. So I was kind of like really out there as a kid to try to find myself. Since I was a elder sibling of my family, everything kind of lied on me as to lead things. So I had to have my own vision outside of what everybody else was doing. And so that's what you often find me doing, is often doing something absolutely different than maybe my counterparts might do. So you'll also see a circle at the top that often represents the sun or the moon, but it also represents the village. So that's really something that I enjoyed pulling together. And you'll notice the circle-like figures that are sort of stenciled in the background that also represents the sun and the moon. So it's sort of the circle of life that you often see. And this here is a particular door of consciousness. And it also often always has cowrie shells and mirrors involved in that. As we know, the cowrie shell was once considered a symbol and still considered a symbol of currency throughout Africa. And so I often try to keep an African foundation along with a Black understanding, which is founded here in American, in Black power projection from America.
Great. And then I really love, yeah, this piece here. You said this is a tribute to, you mentioned to Oscar Grant. Can you tell us a little bit about this one here?
So this one here is actually another door. It's this door is really sort of an offering. So, and a lot of our children have, living in a neighborhood that's war torn by violence and things of that sort, and so many young people leaving. I had to create something in dedication to a young father. We know that, Oscar Grant was a young father and he never made it back home to his child just because of the concept of white terrorism and white terrorism being placed in authority to take on Black life. And so to do that, you'll also see the Black bird down at the bottom, which is hovering right over the knob. which also is the lower self, but the lower self meets the higher self. So you got the one lower down below. There's some offerings of leaves and other vegetations that the hidden properties that are also put inside of these jars. And then,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so it actually is a standing person. And as you can see at the top, there's this laminated rope that I had laminated the rope and actually weaved it in between the old school chair. What I do is I take chairs, I take them apart and turn them into a work of art. I find the chairs on lawns and places that people have actually lived with these chairs, and take those chairs, that very moment, and turn it into a work of art. So at the top, you'll see a hand carving of a mask, which I call the Ma'afa masks. So I've carved about over 150 of these masks. They're masks that you can literally hold in the palm of your hand. They're no more than about 4 to 5 inches in length, and about maybe no more than 2 to 3 inches in depth. And in width, they're often around the range of maybe 2 to 2.5 inches wide.
Yeah.
That's what I often have created, and what I do. Of course, you can see at the top, there is cowrie shells in that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And oh man, yeah, that's a beautiful piece, and I'm glad you described the details of that, because I was in the gallery the other day and I was looking at you know, the offerings, the elements we had in the in that section, and I was really interested and curious in that. So thank you for helping open my eyes to what that with that purpose behind those elements were. And we have here one of my favorites here. I love Baba. If you could just kind of give us a spiel about this, it's such a gorgeous piece. Actually, I think this is the first one you showed me. You texted me, and I was like, let's do it. So as I saw it, I was like, let's do it. This is such a gorgeous piece. Please walk us through this one.
This piece was actually an experimentation. I took different parts of chairs, chairs that I found, and I just took the legs and the arms of the chair and sort of pieced them all together from different parts of it, and tried to create sort of this image that sort of has a belly on it. And if you can look at the round sort of circular figure in the front, it's really sort of always trying to do some sort of portrait of the feeling of the emotion. So this one is called Father, right? And we think about this idea of father, you know, which has been kind of in flight in our community, hence the bird that you see at the top. And you also have the mirrors, which are reflections, always sort of warding away and pulling in at the same time, vibrational energies. You also have the 3 cowrie shells at the bottom that notes myself, my father, and my grandfather, who I recently was able to find and make contact with the family of. And so this piece was really kind of something dedicated to my father, my grandfather, and the work that I'm doing with my son. So that's, yes, this is something that, this is like the Birdlands, you know, and as you can see the sun, you see the circle that is right there, right in front of the bird, as though it is landing on the sun. Me actually, actually with my son. Yeah.
Wow. So what language is Baba, just for our audience?
So Baba is a term that's often used throughout Africa. It can be, it's interchangeable through several languages, but you can often find the term Baba made in West Africa. You can hear Baba in South Africa. So it's a Congolese term. It's a Bantu term actually. The term Baba means father.
Yeah, I hear it a lot, and I always knew it was related to Baba, but it was just kind of good to kind of share with our audience like more of its origins. So, I want to two quick, very quick questions. One, real fast, what does recovery mean to you? And then second, if you could tell us where to find more of your work.
You know, recover is like that of reparations. It's a repair. You know, to recover is to, you know, it's almost like a discovery. You know, when you discover, you actually uncover something that has been hidden. While a recover is something that's been forgotten. It's almost like Sankofa. So when we think about Sankofa, you know, the concept is it's okay to go back for what you lost, for the sake of moving forward for a better future. So those are the sort of things that recovery, you know, my whole family has I've witnessed. Has been struggling to recover, you know, and I've been working to help, you know, my community to recover. That's actually I'm a recovery agent in my community in terms of helping people to recover, you know, from
Recover the culture.
yeah. So from culture to personal self delivery or self discovery, you know, it's been something I've done my whole life.
And real quick, tell us your website and your social media where we can find you and your murals and stuff that you've been working on, your new projects. Where can they find all that?
Well, you know, a lot of my projects are in San Francisco, but I have a few projects that I've put together throughout the Bay Area. I can be found on my social media at Malik's Art. That's MALIKSART, my website, which is seen right now, which is pieces I've done over 20 years ago. I need to upgrade it, but this is what I have right now. Get a view of who I am. And this is maliksart.com. Also, I have another way you can also look me up is on Google by typing in my first and last name, Malik Seneferu, and you get a chance to get a whole series of things in that sort of sense of things. So when you look up, you can get a chance to find me in all the different social media sites and things of that sort. I have a mural at 350 Ellis. I have a ground murals in Hunters Point. I have about 3 ground murals in San Francisco. I just recently finished a mural in the Tenderloin, and I'm going to be working on a new project that's going to be coming up in Alameda, which is going to be Black Unity.
Oh, great.
The last ones I did, I actually helped and took part in the Black Lives Matter mural. But when people saw that, people started calling me and like, when you going to do one in Hunters Point? When you going to do that? And my thing was, I didn't want to repeat what was already done. You know, this concept of Black Lives Matter is for folks who wish to support. I wanted to really sort of voice some of the things that we've really been struggling for, like reparations, investing in Black, you know, building up Black businesses, and of course, housing Black, which is a huge problem that the Bay Area has been facing for some time.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing that. That is so on point. Yeah. So you guys heard it, and please follow this man's Instagram for the latest of his work and also his website. And thank you, Brother Malik, for being here, man. It's an honor to have you and have you in the show. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the interview. Had a good time with you, man.
Yeah, I had a good time with you too.
Absolutely. And remain creative.
Remain creative. I love it. All right, now.